Ladies and gents, welcome to episode 8, devastatingly, the season finale, because I adore doing this. My name, of course, is Michael.
And I'm Jen.
And talk about going out with a bang. We have two fantastic people who have shared their time with us this morning to help us finish the season off. And it's, of course, Mr. Hugh Edwards and Gina Thompson, synonymous with Gravy for the Brain in the voiceover industry. So thank you so much to both of you for taking the time out. And we were
excited.
Tremendously appreciated.
Really
yeah,
excited
absolutely.
Well,
I also feel like I need to do a little bit of damage control as well, because last week at Vox, I think that was quite possibly the most drunk I've been in a large period of time. So there was quite a few times where I was like, shit, it's 3 o'clock in the morning. I was like, all right, I'll just have another one. Then it's like, it's 4 o'clock in the morning.
And so, I have heard some voice notes, and it was an absolute mess. Michael, before we get onto that, I think it'd be great.
Sorry.
I know, and I do want to get onto it. But Hugh and Gina, would you mind just taking like 30 seconds of just introducing yourself to anybody who might not know you? Is that okay?
Of course, yeah. I'm Hugh Edwards. I run Gravy for the Brain, which I started with Peter Dixon in around about 2006, 2007. I've been voice directing and casting since 2002, 2003. I've worked on, I don't know, somewhere between 350 and 400 projects, something like that. It goes up quite a lot. And on a positive note, this has been by far the busiest period we've had in the last 2 years. We are spending literally millions on voice artists at the moment. And that's not a superlative. I mean, actually over millions on voice artists.
That's amazing.
Around the world.
That is good news. We should have ended that. In fact, let's just stop there.
Yeah, we can come back to that. But yes, so the second, there's another one, Gravy, not Gravy, but called Reattendance, which we use at some conferences, which some of you might know. But the third company that we have is now called Off the Page. That was 20 years, its anniversary this year, and so we decided to rename it. It used to be called High Score Productions, but no one could say it. And every time I rang up companies, they'd say, High School, what? And so, we decided to change the name. So Off the Page is now where it is, which employs Gina Thompson.
Oh,
yes,
Hello.
Gina.
Hi,
Great segue.
I'm Gina. I've been working for Off the Page as a casting voice director since September last year, so I'm still quite fresh to it, but I feel like I've really found my niche within the voiceover industry. But I started working for Gravy. COVID, I believe it was, we're working remotely just as customer support, and I kind of worked my way up through there. Did a little bit of events managing, put on two of the One Voices. So I've been a bit about for a short amount of time. But I think it's really probably one of the best times to have joined within the whole industry, to be honest. And I'm really enjoying it. I found my niche for sure.
That's amazing. That's really nice
excellent
to hear.
It's a good feeling that as well, when you found like I've done that many times over the years. And you sort of do different things and you find something to think, yes, this, I love it.
Yeah.
And the thing is as well, there's a different level of I'll say effort. Effort's not the right word, but I don't know, when you're passionate about something, it all encompasses everything you do and the way you approach it, etc. It's like me with voice work. Since I started doing this 7 years ago, I was like, I couldn't imagine doing anything else now, and I put that much more time and effort into it because I care so much.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So yeah, that's fantastic news. So we'll come back to some of these things, because I think that's a really interesting story to look at, because obviously
I've got so
you're
many
new to it. And there's a perspective of it that I think will be really interesting. So post Vox, 1 week later, is everyone
Yeah, how are you
back to
guys
normal?
feeling? I think I left you all up when I went to bed.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think we went to our various separate rooms at about 7:30 in the morning or something.
Oh my
It was
God. I mean, to
pretty late.
sleep. You went to sleep, right? You weren't still
Well,
going.
a couple of hours worth of sleep, and then
I don't know how you do it. I genuinely don't know how you do it.
we just don't get let out much.
I don't get
that's the
allowed.
main
I just
thing.
can't hack it. I just cannot. I can't do
it's-
it.
Oh my God.
You have to remember though that for the whole day everyone's having fun and revelry and all that kind of stuff. The team doesn't actually start drinking until
Yeah.
the work is done. So
Yeah,
we
it's
didn't even
late,
touch
isn't it?
our first drop till near 11 p.m. where you guys were 4 or 5, 6 hours in at that point.
Yeah.
So that was when our night just started.
Yeah, I'm winding down. 11, I'm like, oh, this is getting a bit like sleepy now. Cup of tea, yes. I always want a cup of tea after.
Well, when I got there, I don't know why, I felt a little bit overwhelmed at first and slightly on edge. So I thought, well, have just a cheeky little beer to take the edge away.
Oh yeah, God, that was really early. It was like 12.
I was like, well, not that early, Jen.
Oh, sorry. There was no shame. I was just,
it was
7:30. Yeah, it just helped me sort of relax and settle in, and then obviously, the talks and everything was really insightful.
I really enjoyed the talks, actually. I really enjoyed the workshops, and it was great that you managed to get. I mean, I was one of them, so I'm lucky. But so many people up to do a reading and stuff and get that feedback, because sometimes you might only get like a couple or something. So, thanks for the.
I regret not doing that.
Did you not put your name in?
No, I skipped it, and I thought. Then when people started doing it, I was like, what a mistake that was.
Yeah, you didn't arrive till late, did you? No. My favourite bit of that was when Perdita, like her name was pulled out of the hat, and she literally yelped like
that
she'd
wasn't
been
my
bitten by a
favourite. I
dog.
was sat in front of her, scared the shit out of me.
It was so funny, and the guy next to her just fell on the floor in shock.
She actually full on screamed. It was a strong reaction.
Yeah, it was good.
It was excellent. I thought the whole masquerade idea was fantastic. The new setting. I'm so glad I didn't find out there was stories about it being haunted until after the fact. Because I went to bed. I saw my phone. It was 4:15 when I went to bed. Had I known it was haunted, my brain would have been like, "You're not going to sleep." And then what?
Did you not notice when you walked past all the tombs?
Yeah,
like literally
and everybody
outside
was like
the tea
talking
room.
about that. Like everybody I met was like, "Did you know?"
You know, from my point of view, the one of my favourite games that I'm playing at the moment, because we play a lot of games, obviously, to keep ourselves in check, and just because it's lols. But one of my favourite games at the moment is the Hogwarts Legacy game, and that's just so cool. But you're walking around the castle in Hogwarts Legacy, and it was Coombe Abbey. It was so similar, all this kind of like Gothic architecture, and it's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, look, I did some reading in it. It's like from I think it was built in the 13th century. So I started reading all the stories about the ghost. But I literally go back to my room about 4:15, passed out my bed like a corpse, and then my battery died on my phone, and it was one of those. I was like, and then the fear of not knowing what time it was. And then looked at my watch, it was 10:35, and I was like, check out, probably 11. So I rang reception and went, sorry mate, I've just woken up. What time's reception? He went, 5 minutes ago. I was like, right. so I'll give you till 11. So I got myself ready, ran down. I was in no fit state to leave that hotel room at 11 o'clock in the morning, I can tell you.
Did you drive?
No, God no, did I? No, I got the train. Yeah, that was
good. Oh yeah, I knew that actually. It was like the inside of a cow though. There's rooms. It was so dark. Was yours the same?
They kind of spoil the event payers a little bit, and so they give us like sweets and stuff just free of charge because we've booked a big event with them. And that one was weird. It had like a big 4-poster bed, but it also had this like rotation sort of curly staircase that went up to a bath.
Did it?
Yeah, it was really weird.
Was
just in the middle
like
there was a
mezzanine?
bath. Yeah, but it was proper old school. They said that we were in the new bit.
In the new, right, okay.
And it was clearly,
still pretty old.
Yeah, there were dinosaur bones in the walls and things.
For those listening, Coombe Abbey Hall or Abbey Coombe Hall, I can't remember which way around it is, but it's
Coombe Abbey.
It is a spectacle. It's a sight to see.
Yeah, it's an interesting venue,
beautiful.
definitely. But I mean, there was like a lot of bats in the middle of rooms in there. I feel like there was some stuff going down. Like, who designed that? At what period? I don't know.
To talk about that.
yeah, sorry. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but no, it was absolutely excellent.
We had a secret passcode.
For the bath or what for the?
No, the room. We had a secret knock.
Did you?
No, we didn't really. No.
Because that'd be cool.
I was going around. I was like, I said to you before the day started, like, you okay if I take like some little voice notes so people to be part of the podcast? Yeah, fine. So obviously doing that much later on in the evening when everyone's drunk, I started listening back to him. I was like, I am not playing any of this. It's just drunk garbled.
I remember you sort of interviewing us in the Courtyard bar. It must have been 4 a.m. And I mean, by that point, I was quite tiddly, and I remember thinking, "You're really drunk," and like I was really drunk, so you must have been really drunk.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
Yours is the last note. The last note. So just so you know, there was. Yeah.
Well, you should burn those.
Yeah, yeah. They will never see the light of day. Yeah. So
you sounded quite sober, actually, Hugh. But
really.
Michael just got more and more drunk, didn't you? I think you were pretty pissed when I left at like 1:30. So.
To be fair to you, mate, though, you're a very happy drunk. Like, you're a very smiley, cuddly drunk. So.
Oh yeah, there's not an aggressive bone in my body. I think it's because I said before, because I love this industry so much and like how we forge connections largely through social media. But when you see people in real life, they don't feel like strangers. And I was saying, coming off Vox, and for those who don't go to these events, this is one of the reasons why I think they're so important, because you really do feel like part of a community.
Yeah,
and I came away from Vox.
Well done, you guys, for creating that.
100%, and I'm not just saying that because you're both here. I'd say it if you weren't, because I really did feel like an overwhelming sense of community. If you look at the pictures, how we're all gathered together, everyone's smiling. There's nothing false about that whatsoever. So hats off to you, because you put on a fantastic event, all of you. It's really fantastic.
Oh, well, thank you very much. The Vox was actually inherited. Before us, it was run by Posey Brewer, and it was run by quite a few other organisations throughout its time. Started, of course, by Peter and his friends, but yeah, I think it was 2017, maybe I've got that wrong, where we first took it back on. Said. Yeah, I can't exactly remember what it was, but that was the 30th year. So all of those other conferences out there that say they're the longest running, poo-poo to them, because they're not.
Yeah, no, it's really good. It was really fun.
So,
I want to do it again. Can you just organise one quite soon?
Oh, sorry. I remember saying to you, Michael, that I've seen your name, so many nominations crop up over the years that we've been doing this. And I think the first thing I said to you was, how do you pronounce your last name? Because I see you about, but we never actually had a conversation. So I think definitely a connection with you was made. There's always one person at a particular conference that I'll always not gravitate towards, but become... They're like a new VO to me, if that makes sense, because I am still new to it, because it is very much everyone knows everybody, which I really like, but I'm still making friends after all these years, which is what I really like. And my follower count goes up on Instagram, which is quite good.
Well, yeah, exactly. Likewise, when we go to these shows and stuff, and obviously see on stage, but again, it's someone I've never spoken to, so just to finally have those conversations, get to know someone better, it's what it's all about, and I just love it. I think it's fantastic. I really do. Roll on, May.
Speaking of seeing you at various places and things, one of my favourite events of this Vox was that Chris Tester won the Mail of the Year award, and it turns out afterwards that him and Anthony Hewson have this little thing together. Little kind
of
like
not seen all the stuff?
No, I've not seen it before.
Hugh, you need to catch up.
I mean, those guys are nominated every single year and have been since we've been doing it, and neither... I mean, I remember saying to Hewson once, a few years back in the bar, your time's going to come. You're going to win that at some point. And yet never has. And I think it's the same for Chris and a few other people on there as well. But Chris winning it, and Nonny, of course, who's been nominated every other time. And the one year she can't make it, she wins it.
Oh, yeah, that's a real shame. I'd be gutted, I think, if I wasn't there and I won. Yeah, they both did really well. But the room erupting for Chris was amazing. And I think Hugh, you need to catch up on all the social drama that goes on, all the skits that they both do. It's hilarious.
It's like there's some VO EastEnders that I haven't been tuning into, because everyone seems to know it,
Yeah, you need to
it's amazing.
plug in.
But what I will say
really
is,
funny.
what was so beautiful was when Chris did win, it was because obviously a lot of us who are aware of this like back and forth, they have like a bit of banter. When Chris did win, there was an overwhelming sort of happiness for him. But Anthony came over and just gave him a massive hug, because there's no competition. There's just love there, and they both love what they do. And obviously Chris won it first, and it was just a beautiful thing, to me. And I can't. I know I came away from that Vox feeling so overwhelmingly just great. It was just brilliant for so many different reasons. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so
I'm very glad.
Okay, so let's move it forward. You talked to both of you about casting, so let's maybe start there then.
Yeah, can I ask? I'm just interrupting you, Michael, but how did you get into it? Obviously, Gina, you said a little bit, but Hugh, how did you start doing this?
Well, it was a long time ago when I had hair.
Have the music then. A long time ago.
Yes, that's right. You need to fade some in.
Yeah.
It literally was back. I don't know, 20 years ago. Originally, I had a sort of theatrical bent, and I had in my youth trod the boards with my parents. They used to run. My stepfather ran a local arts centre we have here in Banbury called the Mill Arts Centre, which was always putting on productions, and I was either in them or we were managing the stage wings and whatever we were doing, and so it was always kind of part of my blood. And one of my best friends, we used to hang around together here, and his name was Tim Plester, and he went to university to do drama. In fact, you'd know him. He was the guy who did the throat slitting at the Red Wedding on Game of Thrones, that amazing scene. But we sort of went all the way through that together, and then our paths diverged. I wanted to be a rock star as a kid, as you do. And ended up typically falling into investment banking. and nothing to do with either. Yeah. Did that for nearly 10 years. And they have these things on you which are called the golden handcuffs, and they basically, they'll give you a big bonus in January, and then they'll give you a big pay raise in June, and you can never leave because you're always wanting to get to the next financial thing. But you get to this point where it's like, you're just building systems to move money for people who have got money to make
Yeah.
money, and it's just soul destroying. So, but I've been writing music constantly through my teens and my 20s, and I called up just randomly one day. I called up Electronic Arts and said, "I write music for computer games. Do you have anything that you can do?" And they were like, "Yeah, we're doing the second Harry Potter game. You want a quote for it?" I was like, "Yes, I do."
Oh my God! What an intro!
I didn't actually get that gig, but what I did was I did get down to the shortlist where we were talking about money. And this is part of the negotiation course at Gravy for the Brain, of course, which I learnt from the majority of it from the investment banking time. They said, "Well, how much can you do an hour's worth of orchestral for?" And I said, "Well, what's your budget?" And they immediately came back and said, "Well, we can't do it for any more than like 45,000." And I was going to put in like $3,000. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I just couldn't believe it. And even though I didn't get the job, it proved to me that there was a living to be made through music. So, started high school with my friend Jeremy, and it very, very soon came to the point where we were asked to do speech recording, monologues and dialogues and whatever. And then I just sort of fell in love with it, and at the same time fell out of love with the music because it became very much sort of painting by numbers.
Right.
But with voice, I could really connect, and even though I wasn't doing the acting myself, I could help shape their performances in the way that I knew the games wanted to be,
Yeah.
or that the games developers wanted. And the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it, the more better I got at it, the better contacts I got, the more good feedback we got, and it just kind of snowballed, and and then that morphed into so many other things in all the corporate jobs we do, in the advertising. I think in our second year we made a really good contact, and we did something like 150 commercials for ITV, which was just unprecedented, but it really set us up for our CV, our resume, and from that point on, just everything came in. And I've been very lucky, but I think that old adage is true, is that you do put yourself in a position where luck can find you.
Yeah.
And so it's been a joy, and there's never a day where we get behind the mic or on the other side of the glass and think, right, here we go again. It's just never like that. There's always something interesting and something that's human about it, which is I suppose topical point.
Absolutely. And we've seen both of you, sorry, Michael, again, jetting all over the world on Facebook. I don't use Facebook often.
Oh, God, yeah.
Yeah, you're everywhere and casting. And I'm assuming you can't tell us what it's for.
Correct.
Oh, okay. Is it a game, though?
I can't tell you anything about it. What I can tell you is that it's not just me and Gina. Well, in fact, there's one lady I can't say, but there's a lady who works for us called Hannah as well, and she's...
Hi, Hannah.
She's around. In fact, she's just sitting over there.
Shouts out to Hannah.
But yeah, so we are casting, we are finding actors, we are recording actors for different types of work, different types of jobs, and it's not just one type of job. There's multiple different styles of jobs, and it seems to have just all come to one particular head. Where at the moment we're just travelling all the time.
Yeah.
And Gina and I worked out the other day that I think we've done 23 return flights this year, which is
Wow.
going some.
That's mad. What month are we in? October. That's a lot.
Well, we've stopped for this quarter, thank God. Thank the fucking Lord that we're not actually flying till at least January, I think.
I am a bit jealous, though. It is very cool. How are you finding it, Gina?
I mean, it's a lot of things for me. The job, obviously, it's quite intense. I don't travel very well, so prior to putting on One Voice Texas during COVID, which I flew out and did on my own, which I was fresh to the industry, really fresh. Prior to that, I've really not been abroad.
Baptism by fire, isn't it?
Yeah. It was me and Harry. It wasn't just me. Harry quarantined in Mexico for we found a loophole in the rules, and I've got dual nationality, so went on my American passport. But yeah, I really, really hate flying. It's not it's not my favourite thing. I am getting better, and I've actually done loads of solo trips as well. So it's helped my confidence massively, more than anything, I'd say. But the job itself and the travel is also, it's just so strange to me that I'm doing it. because it's a proper job. I've always worked in hospitality, which I don't really consider a proper job, but because you don't get paid very much. So yeah, when I fell into this, don't know, like I said before, it just really feels like I found my niche. You know, the voicing is interesting to me, but not to be doing it myself. It's just not for me. I get asked all the time, and I'm like, nah. It's like Hugh said, it's knowing what to pull out of actors and knowing what the vision is of the client or whoever it is, or your own vision, or just having fun with it and being able to just like play around with two creatives in a room or more than that.
That is really cool.
I should just say that I mean, if you go back in time a long time before all the training courses and whatever, the way that the world worked was you would have an actor and they would basically have an understudy, and that person would hand the baton on to them and give them all of their training and all of their... It was like a one-on-one thing, but permanent, like an apprenticeship, I suppose. And that's what we're doing here. But what's crucial about it is that I don't think everyone who wants to can act, and I don't think everyone who wants to can direct. And I think certain people have aptitudes for the certain things. And I mean, Gina and Hannah definitely have those qualities where they're so interested in the human condition that they look into what's happening in real time and outside with that person, with that character. And they always seem to ask the right questions and bring the right things out of the people. So there's a very good reason why... why they were offered those roles and to learn on the job, because they've got that aptitude at the beginning and they've got the right mindset for it.
That's amazing. And I think you see when we're at these workshops and you... Sorry, did I interrupt you again?
Sorry,
Michael.
I will just go.
I'm really sorry. I'm very keen.
You had your time on your voice notes, Ashley.
Yeah. Your drunken voice notes. I'm just going to say, I think it's amazing when you are in a space like a workshop, and there is nothing better to me than working with other actors and a director and alongside in that collaborative process. But when you're in a workshop and you see a director redirect another actor and it completely changed their performance, or they pull something out, and there's such a skill in that, and it is, I love watching that as well. It's well done, both of you. It's what
I was going to say was you made an interesting point there, Hugh, about people who think they can act but can't. What, like, how far off are some people in terms of like what's like? Because I don't know, where do I start with this now? My brain's like, you know what you're trying to say, but where are you going with this? So some people are like, they have an idea they can embody a character, but it's just missing something, and you can sometimes hear it. Can you find that missing piece of the puzzle, both of you? Or is it like it's just not there, try something else?
Well, I mean, it's perhaps not fair to say that not all people can act and not all people can direct, because I think with effort, people can. But I do think that there is a natural kind of aptitude that people tend to have, the ones that are successful. All actors, from my opinion, or my experience, are different. And some actors, you can have a conversation with at the beginning and you just kind of push the boat in one direction, and then you don't talk to them again for another 3 hours. And at the end of it, you go, yeah, that was great. And they went, really? You didn't say anything? It's like, I know. It was just brilliant. And then some need to be directed line by line. And it doesn't really matter which one's right, that there is no right or wrong to it. Yeah. But that said, there are some people who just don't do as well as others, and some people who just naturally seem to just get everything. Yeah. And it's unclear about how much of that is work and how much of that is effort and how much of that is natural skill. But I will give you one story about a chap, and I won't give you his name, but he came onto a gaming workshop we did in 2007, I think it was, maybe 2008. And Peter and I used to run these things together. And we had, like a liquid dinner that evening, as you do, discussing the day. And we used to sort of like, comment on everybody and how they'd done. And there was this one chap, and it was like, it was an immediate no chance. That person has not got a chance. And then 4 years later or something, he rang me up and he said, listen, I've done this demo, can you have a listen? And it was just mind-blowingly good. And I was thinking, well, someone's clearly done a really good job on that demo, because that guy, just wasn't there at all. And so I called him up and we did just like a little session, and I, was just asking him about it. And he was just so into it, and he'd just put so much work in. And so I fired a couple of scripts at him, and he was just excellent. And the transition that he had made was proof to me when we actually started Gravy for the Brain, and at the time, at the early days, we got a little bit of criticism, people saying, well, you're taking advantage of people, you're giving them false hope. It's like, that's not true at all. If you put the effort in, you're going to get there.
Well, there's just on that, there's an excellent book by a lady called Angela Duckworth. It's called Grit. She's a psychologist, but what she essentially sets out to do is to prove or find if talent is innate, or if essentially you can get better through passion. And that's essentially what she discovers, that there are some people who, they might not have the same abilities as some people who seem to be naturally good at something, but they're so determined, they're so passionate, they're so dedicated, and they practice and practice and practice, that they do become excellent. And I think that story is true of that.
Yeah,
so,
and some people are just born psychopaths like Elon Musk. What can you do?
Yeah. But I think, but like, Gina, for you, so from the casting point of view, like, this is new to you. Like, what are you, like, how are you finding the experience? What are you seeing in people? Are there things that are, are you quickly picking up on things that you do differently with them to get more out of them, etc.?
It's a tough one to answer for me.
Because I don't know anything about casting, you see, so it's all quite new to me.
Right. So, I guess my process would be, I don't know, I feel like I possess this thing where I either get someone in my head that I know will be really good at it from either voice actors I already know, but I really enjoy, because it's new to me, still going on to, we've got a select few agents that we like to use, and I really enjoy listening to people's reels on the websites, and then getting them into the booth and then going, wow, that's really what you can do on your reel as opposed to what you can do in person. It's kind of like I'm a bit of a kid in a sweet shop at the minute still, because there's so many different jobs that we do, and you have to get so many different types of people, and what works for one person can be really excel in one thing that I definitely wouldn't choose to use for something else. And on the note of practicing your art, I mean, the events over the years, when we see the same people coming, which is great, but those, you always pick out one and you go, they're gonna, in the next couple of years, they're just gonna skyrocket. But it's always the people that you see that are just doing the best in the industry, I feel, because you're coming to the events, you're going to the workshops, you're learning in all corners of what you can learn, and we really see that in the results of nominations for the awards. Just watching people excel is really makes me really happy also.
Oh, that's really nice.
I should say as well that...
And giving people work. That makes me
also really nice.
Yeah.
That must be gratifying, yeah.
One of the things I was going to say is that I've noticed that Gina casts slightly different to me, which is great, because nobody wants to make like carbon copies, and it's interesting because sometimes like she's got a real thirst for it, a real hunger for it that I may have had, but I'm now sort of like a little bit older and a bit more jaded. And she'll say to me, "Listen, there's something. It's like skip along to like 2 minutes 15, and there's something on it. It's like, oh yeah, that's really good actually." Whereas I just haven't had the time to go and do that, and really don't have that kind of. I'm just too long in the tooth. I think there's a lot of casting directors nowadays who've been working a long time. It's like you gotta show me pretty quick, otherwise I've got another 70 to listen to.
Well, that kind of just, sorry to interrupt you, but just on that, because I was going to come straight to demos. I think demos is like the backbone of people trying to get booked for work. In both your experience, what is like a typical, I always say red flag because it expresses what I'm trying to say best, but it might be a bit harsh. But what is a general like no when it comes to some, because we normally hear that you've only got like 5-10 seconds to capture someone's attention or thereabouts, so that might not be strictly true in your cases, but generally you get a demo, what do you find is makes you make a quick assumption?
For me, I think the thing that's most obvious is that you can hear when people aren't getting accents right.
Right, yeah.
And so if you're going to do an American and you're British or vice versa, just make sure it's on the money. Mm-hmm. Get someone else to listen to it before you put it out there. And it's all in the vowels. You can hear it. You can hear it pretty obviously. And that then gives me a little less confidence in them as an actor. So I would have preferred them to not put the accent on if it wasn't perfect, and then do the stuff that I know they can do really, really well. What it's like? It's like, because I mean, the process of casting is not that I make the decision. And I was trying to sort of
Yeah.
ask people about this at Voice, ask the other casting directors to see what they thought. But the process in general is that we will go and create a shortlist from the very large funnel that we get. And then we'll discuss it and we'll say, okay, well, actually, we think for this particular role, these 3 people are great. I want that one, but we're going to put these 3 in. And then we'll put them back. And, 80% of the time we'll get the one we want.
Yeah.
Maybe a proportion we will get one of the other 2. And sometimes they turn around and say, actually, we don't think those 3 are right, so we'll go back. But I think because people think that we make the decisions, well, we sort of do, I suppose. We are filtering to such an extent. But because they think that we make the decisions, it's all about impressing us so quickly. Right. And you've got to remember that we have to believe in what you do because we give it to the client.
Yeah,
and
your
the client
reputation's on the line.
Yeah, and especially if they take that person and then that person's crap in game, well, that reflects on us because we've put those people there. Which is another reason I don't particularly like working on projects where I'm not doing the directing and the casting, because if I'm casting it and handing over to somebody else, that's also another
you're in
risk.
control of it if you're doing the direction as well.
Yeah, the majority of the times when that happens, I try and maintain a really close relationship with the actual director. We've just done an animated feature this summer where that was the case, and he's a brilliant director, so I was just making sure as much as possible that we were really talking, and I was pointing out why these people should be good. And actually, it was a much more it was a much longer casting process because of that, because we kept going backwards and forwards, and I think we ended up with 3 or 4 leads before we settled on the final ones that we actually really wanted,
So people will kill us if we don't ask a bit more about how you find your voices. Like, how do you do the casting? Obviously, Gina, you said you've got a few preferred agencies that you go to. Just talk us through the process. How do you find people? Can people reach out? That kind of stuff.
Do you want to take that, G?
So I'm always open to. We did develop the gaming conference. I don't know if you guys have heard of that, and we took off the page there, and it was just a hub of voice actors, essentially, just at our booth, which was really, really nice to see. And everyone asked, do you mind if I'm a voice actor, or a lot of mocap actors as well. I collect business cards all the time, and like you said, we both do. I love them. They're like goodies to me. I love branding as well. I'm a sucker for branding.
Oh, I might ask you about that as well, actually.
I'll buy a bottle of water because it's in a pink bottle. It's like £4, but I'll still buy it. But like you said, we are very different. But I think I'm there to kind of give Hugh a nudge, like, oh, have you thought about this person? That's how the dynamic works at the minute. I obviously don't make all the big decisions, and I guess I still have other. No, not yet. And I guess I still got more to learn about how it's done and different ways of doing it. Hugh, you could probably give me a bit more insight now, to be honest.
Sure. So there are definitely people that I have who are kind of ringers in my head. So if we get a game, we did one this summer, which was massive. Was it like 140 different characters or something like that? And then we did it in multiple languages. So something like that. There are people that I know I'm going to pull in, just because I know that they're good. I know I can rely on them. I know I'm going to get some good base characters in there. And also alongside that, there are people that I have worked with before, who something will just remind you, and it's like, oh, that's a kind of like 50-year American guy with a really deep, gruff voice. I'm going to get Glenn in for that, or at least get him to test in for it or whatever. We're trying as much as we possibly can to be as diverse as possible, and there's a very wide net that you can go down. And for a while back there, end of last year, we decided to start casting on Spotlight. And Spotlight's a good platform, but it is hugely, hugely subscribed. Yeah. And for the animated feature that we were casting, it was beyond a joke. We had sort of like, whatever it was, 8 main roles we were doing, and we were getting 2,000 submissions per role. Wow. And it was, what we noticed was that it was so impersonal, and it works slightly different in the acting side than voiceover, because they don't often do self-tapes unless it's something quite big. And what they do is on Spotlight, they do this thing called suggesting. So you've got your profile photo, and agents will just suggest it. So all of a sudden...
people without agents on it, which I do.
Or people, they just suggest themselves or whatever. Yeah. But what that means is that you've then got 2,000 headshots to look at. And it's the onus is then on me or Gina to then go through 2,000 headshots and try and find an actor for a role, which is the opposite of how we do it in the VO world. But that's kind of how it works on the acting side. So it's that can be very, very time consuming, and you can burn a month doing that.
Yeah, because for
and not find someone.
Or theatre, the initial thing is, do they look like what I'm casting? But for you guys, it doesn't matter what someone looks like at all, does it? So then you've got to go through an extra stage, haven't you, to then click on and do it.
Is it also as well?
Yeah.
With
I thought about that.
For people who want to, I'm a big gamer as well. So Hugh actually put a note down that you're a big fan of The Last of Us.
Oh my God, yeah.
Yeah. So we share a common love there, absolutely.
It's just the most perfect embodiment of a cross between cinema and gameplay and free world and excellent acting, amazing graphics. They've thought everything out so well. Yeah. It's not that it's the only game in the world, but it's just perfect. And then the second one comes along and it's better. It's like, oh my God.
Well, I'd had that game. I'm just a quick side quest just to explain this book, because I'll tell you, I'm going back to Voices in a minute, but I had that game originally for about 3 years. It came as a bundle. I tried to play it. I thought it was just a bit clunky. I couldn't get into it. And then the series came out on HBO, and I loved the first episode. I thought, you know what, I'll give it a go. And I battered it in a weekend. Just couldn't put it down. Loved it. And I just felt it. And then the second one, it was exactly like you said. I was just mesmerised. But this leads me to what I was going to say about voices. So one thing I love, like we talked earlier on about people who, like, some people just have a knack for something, some things they can't do. I can't do accents. It's just not my thing, and I'm okay with that. I will try, but I ultimately accept that is not my skill set in any way, shape or form. But I do love, and what I'm always developing is human performances, realistic performance, emotion, drama, all those sorts of things. So when you look at something like The Last of Us, that idea, that type of style would fit right into my remit of what I do. But what I'm asking is, if you want to try and get casting games, is that enough? Do you need to be able to offer much more? Or is it good enough to be good at something and that be all you're known for?
Well, the truth is, I think you can boil it down to, are you a really good actor? If we're talking about gaming, it's really just about acting. But, game acting is a different skill to theatre acting and to television acting and film acting, whatever. If you think about theatre, you've got to reach the people at the back of the room. Even a whisper has to be hugely projected so that everyone can hear it. And where you might have a close-up in a film that's just like a slightly quizzical eyebrow raised, in the way that I'm doing on this video now, you can't see that in theatre at the back of the room. The expression has to be different. And in the same way with voice acting, if you have some kind of film thing where there's I don't know, a call and response, and the person says, well, why did you do that? And the person says, well, I did. What I was just doing there, we're all on video at this point when this is being recorded, and I just made a little facial I don't know, movement which highlighted whatever emotion I was feeling, and there's just a gap in space. But if you do that in VO, then you get, why did you do that? Why did you do that? And you just get, well, I wanted to, or whatever it was. And so that doesn't make sense, and so you have to portray the emotion through the voice, but not overdo it, because that's going to be put onto a game avatar at some point, and then it'll look weird when they try and do some some movement
dancing.
Some movement to cover that, So it really is a skill, and mocap just as much, if not more so, especially if you're doing performance capture.
I think that's one of the reasons I really like performance capture as well, because it just feels like it's all those worlds brought into one space, and it does feel it's an exciting place to be.
Jen and I did I was about to say, Jen and I did a scene that wouldn't necessarily sound quite right.
I don't even know what you mean.
See where your mind's going, right?
Podcast after dark, that's the one.
Yeah. I got a message off a guy off X. I'm used to saying it now, but Twitter, can't help but add that in. And he's from the Manchester Metropolitan at their PCAP studio. And he basically said, are you able to come down to run a couple of scenes? and we've got some students that want to see how it's done. I said, absolutely no problem. So I said, I've got another person that can come as well because he needed to. Sent him Jen's information, said, yeah, 100% come down. So
Eager beaver. I was like, yes, please.
Oh,
Let's
that
do
was
it.
one of the most exciting things because, like you said, it embodies everything. Like you just put this suit on and you're acting physically, obviously, but oh my God, it was just amazing. It was absolutely fantastic. It really was.
To come back to the end bit of your question, though, because we did go down a bit of a rabbit hole with my story.
Welcome to the podcast.
The that's a good name for a podcast, isn't it? The rabbit hole. Yeah. The real answer to your question is it's really all about. Season 2, the rabbit hole. It's about acting, but then there are lots of different styles within gaming anyway.
Yeah.
And very often we'll cast someone for a role, and there'll be 3 or 4 lines at the end where we need to get them to do a different character, and so we get them to do that in a different accent. As much as possible, we try not to cross racial boundaries there.
Yeah.
With the odd line or 2, it's not always possible, depending on the budget of the gaming or whatever. But the point is that you are doing different characters. So in those instances, having a background of characters that you can do that don't sound all the same is quite useful. Yeah. But if we know that you can't do that and we're just booking you for one main role anyway, well then we'll know that that's the case. And so we just won't assign you additional characters.
I was going to basically say what you said, Hugh. I wouldn't say it necessarily stops you from gaming, but as long as you can differentiate between the clear different characters that you can do within a game, then I don't think that would necessarily stop you. It doesn't have to be about an accent, I would say. Like you said, as long as we can determine that you're playing a completely separate character to say the main character that we've cast, and we can chuck you in to do a few lines with another one. I wouldn't say it's a complete stopper.
Deal breaker.
Yeah, but then the world's changed, I mean, if you go back 10, 15 years, all voice actors did lots and lots of different characters, and that was the job. And you'd go into a radio studio and they'd say, right, well, we want this person to be from Newcastle, and in Dixon would go, and then it'd do some Newcastle guy, or whatever it would be. And it feels like it's getting less than that now.
Yeah.
I think because of the natural course of evolution about diversity and whatever, which is important. But as a good example, the other day we were casting for a Russian character, and we went to the games company and we said, okay, do you want actual Russian or do you want Hollywood Russian? Because they're not the same thing. Hollywood Russian in films does not sound like Russian, but most people watching a production would say, well, that accent's a bit weird, which is the actual Russian one, and because they're not used to it. And they said, okay, we want Hollywood Russian. So the very first guy I thought of, even though we didn't use him in the end, was a Welsh actor, who I just happen to know does a really good Hollywood Russian accent.
Okay.
So I don't think you should be limited in any way, and whatever your skills are, just capitalise on all of them,
Well, I always say, focus on your strengths. Focus on your strengths. Work on your. No, I forgot me what I'm saying. What do I say?
What I always say.
Every morning I fuck this up.
My brain's like, come on, where are we going? It's in there somewhere.
We know what you mean. We know what you mean.
Focus on your weaknesses, double down on your strengths, basically. I think that's a good thing to do. We have a little segment every week.
Is it time? These guys aren't going to know what it is, but I'm excited.
No.
It's time, Jen. It's definitely time for the week. Okay,
the blank looks are amazing. I'm so sorry we didn't warn you about this.
Voiceover of the week.
But so what we do is we added a little segment
of the week.
Yeah, so we added a little thing in for this season where we wanted to just throw some light on other VOs who put some work out, and just we pick one that we saw that followed the podcast for this week, and we pick our favourite one and we just give it some praise, and we just say, we like this piece of work, and just give them a shout out. It's just purely just something positive.
Share the love.
And for this week, this is the final one for this week, and this is by Lizzie Jobling, who released a piece of work yesterday which she was incredibly proud of. And when you watched, I'll play you a quick clip, which I've clipped a little bit because it switches tone. But when you watch the whole video on the social media, it just works so well with the sound, with the style that she's doing, the visuals. It resonated. So Lizzie, you're my voiceover of the week for the end of season 2. Here is a quick snip.
A new force has arrived, born from the wind, a revolution. along it with unstoppable momentum. Disruption becomes direction. Resistance becomes rush.
And it goes on. It's about
nice.
about a minute long.
Very
So
nice.
well done, Lizzie.
Yeah, well done.
That was
Well done, Lizzie.
performance of the week. So, okay, to wrap up the casting thing, is there anything, just a quick couple of bullet points you would say to people who undoubtedly want to get in front of casting people? Are there a couple of things you would just, as a takeaway point, say to them?
Don't be a dick.
Right.
Don't be a dick.
Yeah.
I think that's a really good one, though.
That is
Very valid.
Where'd you go?
Quite cliche, but I honestly just make an impression when we meet, whether it be in person in the studio or via Zoom. I like people that make me laugh and that I'm going to remember, that I want to work with again. Because I mean, the job's supposed to be fun, isn't it? So
Yeah.
yeah, just be yourself.
Yeah, authenticity is massively important. I think sometimes
Yeah,
people try too
yeah.
hard just to make an impression, just to, I don't know, just get in front of someone. But sometimes you can see through it. Like I said on last week's episode, if I know I'm being sold to, I know that person's not being authentic, I'm instantly disinterested, because I know that when he goes home, or he or she goes home from work, that persona I was just given will probably completely drop. I'd rather know who they really are when they're out with their mates and stuff, because it's more genuine.
Exactly.
You know? So
Yeah.
yeah.
I would say, in addition to that, try and be confident, which, I mean, I know isn't easy for some people. This isn't going to be a trip into confidence, but confident reads just sound good, and we just hear them and we just know them. I mean, you know, it takes a bit of confidence to go and do an intimate whisper read like Lizzie just did there. That was a really confident performance, and it just feels good.
Yeah.
There's never any of that little thing at the back of your mind that subconsciously makes you think they're not right for it or they're not ready for it. They just completely own it.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a good
And I'd
performance from
say
Lizzie. I like that.
even
it was, yeah.
if someone comes in confident, it makes you feel a bit more at ease that you could chuck whatever at them.
Definitely.
God,
You know,
yeah.
I'm not going to feel, or we're both now going to start feeling nervous because I'm going to ask for something that I'm not necessarily going to get back, and then it's just the wheels start falling off and you're just trying to scrape it back from the start. So yeah, starting on a really high confident note from both parties, you kind of feel like you can just get it done.
Yeah.
I would
Yeah,
agree.
right.
Another little tip is, if you're doing in-person auditions or live-based auditions, don't over-rehearse,
Okay.
because it's the bane of our life sometimes, where they just know how it goes and it goes like
Yeah.
that. And it's like, okay, can we just change that? Yeah, no problem. I'll do it in this style for you. And here it is, and it goes like that. And that they've just got it so locked into their mind that they just can't get out of it. And it's half the time we've got, you know, another 10, 15 people in the corridor. So it's like, okay, we're going to move on. Thank you. So it's, don't over-rehearse.
Do you often do live auditions?
Yeah, all the time. In fact, most of our travelling is doing live auditions
Oh,
at the
of
moment.
course. Yeah, that makes sense.
We've been doing remote auditions in a first sense from the UK, and then when we actually go everywhere, that's when we're just meeting people and actors. And I have to say, I mean, I know that I kind of, when you travel an awful lot like that, you often come across as being tired or negative about it or whatever, but we're incredibly fortunate to be doing what we're doing, because not only are we seeing a completely different variety of voice artists, but we're seeing different cultures, different foods.
Yeah.
And, you know, for example, would you, as a British voice artist, naturally think that there's a huge and flourishing, vibrant community in Uganda? Probably not.
No.
But there is. And there's one in Cairo, and there's one in Tanzania, and there's one in Nairobi in Kenya, and so on and so forth. It's all the way around the world, this little global industry we live in. And just because we're in our own pockets doesn't mean that it's not out there. It's massive.
What an amazing way to see the world as well. Gosh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That'd be amazing. Well,
Yeah,
the
we're
last thing
very
I was,
fortunate.
you're just saying about the industry. That's the only thing I was going to sort of just keen to sort of hear your thoughts on as well, both of you, about the industry as a whole now. Like, we're seeing so many changes. I know those dreaded two letters, AI. I'm fascinated on the AI subjects. I talk about it quite a lot because I just think it's really interesting. But like the industry as a whole, like with some changes coming in, like there's a lot of now, obviously everyone's got home studios. It was interesting to say that you do live casting because a lot of it is normally remote. But where do you see things going for voiceover industry? Like with the changes that are coming with things like AI. Hugh and I, we've conversed briefly on this a while back. You said about the lady that came to One Voice, was it Google? She did a talk about people saying that they're really
Monica,
getting,
yeah.
the people are getting a bit too, like, getting too wrapped up in it for no well, it's okay to be concerned, but people are worrying about something that isn't quite there yet, and I completely agree with that sentiment. But AI is part of... Sorry, go on.
I was just going to say her actual quote was that, and she Monica Podsiadler, her name is, she is the head of research at Google, and what she said at One Voice when asked was, no, I don't think we will ever fully be able to replicate the human voice properly. We can do it in a very short sentence and fool you, but when it comes to anything meaningful, no, we can't, and we won't be able to.
Yeah, I think that's true, though. I mean, it's at the end of the day, we say it all the time that you can't direct an AI voice. You can give it a piece of text and it will, maybe do its the emotions it's prompted to do, but it will never give you something brand new and unique because it feeds off it goes off what it's been fed. You know what I mean? So it makes an interpretation of that. Well,
before I go into my little rant about it, Gina, what do you think about the future of the industry?
I think my stance is it kind of goes hand in hand with what we were saying about practicing your art. I think if you're really passionate about something and you're really good at it, people are always going to want the best of the best, and AI isn't going to be the best of the best. I look at it in a sense of tattoos, like artwork. Eventually that could probably be done by robots or AI replicated in some facility, but you're always going to pay for a really good tattoo artist or the original person that's done it, because that's their art, that's their thing. AI doesn't own voiceover, it doesn't own people that do their own drawings, and people that want to let it take over, they just then let it. But the people that feel really strongly about it and really love what they do, those people will always stay at the top and be at the top. That's how I feel about it.
That's really nice.
Yeah, I totally agree. And from my point of view, I think that a lot of people are being, maybe understandably, but inadvertently fooled by AI because they don't actually understand what it is.
Yeah.
A lot of people have got this, are starting to understand it with, a lot of people are starting to understand it with things like ChatGPT. And the million spin-offs that all actually use ChatGPT, even though they're pretending not to be. Excuse me. So yeah, I'll start that again. A lot of people, I think, are being fooled by AI, and I think a lot of people are starting to understand.
That's AI saying, listen, let me explain myself.
You need to get it, Hugh. Get it.
No, they're different phone calls.
It wasn't like a panic.
Start
Hugh, can I just butt in here, please? This is AI. Let me tell you about myself. Sorry.
No, I think a lot of people are being fooled by AI, and I think it's maybe understandable, but they don't understand what it actually is and how it actually works. So they're starting to understand things like ChatGPT, which, it's dressed up in lots of different versions, but you can get the fact that it can go and write you something. But if you want detail from it, it's just dog shit. It just doesn't work, and it gets it wrong the majority of the time. And it has to spit out the same style of what it's doing again and again and again, because it has to, because it's all it knows. So if you go and say to it something like, okay, tell me the 10 different ways I could style Michael's beard, right? It's going to go and give you that. But if you say, give me another 10, they're largely similar. If you say, okay, I want more, give me another 10, largely similar. Until you give it a different viewpoint and say, okay, styled it with a blonde tint, and then it will give you something else. Yeah. But it's because it can only do things in one way. And when it comes to voice, what's really important to understand is that all a learning model does is it replicates what you put into it. Yeah. So if you do a very sad, unhappy kind of voice, that's what's going to come out of it. And if you do a very positive and friendly and confident voice, that's what's going to come out. And it doesn't understand what the words mean. All it's doing is replicating a THE. I put these things out and it says the. That's all it does. Mm-hmm. But then you go and listen to, the David voice from 11 Labs on TikTok or something, and people think, oh my God, we're fucked. Our voice is going to completely be taken over. All our jobs are going to go. And yes, there may be a bit of ebb and flow in the industry for a while, but it's not going to take over the world, because as Gina said, what we want is human performances and quality, and we know that it's not real. Yeah. So things like the Google voice, like Alexa, like the new OpenAI voice, like the David voice, they're all well and good. But what they're good at doing is doing mass media updated by computer in real time. That's what it's useful for. It's actually really good at that. But what it's not good for is taking that David 11 Labs voice and going and putting it on, I don't know, a Tesco advert. They wouldn't do that in a million years because it sounds like everything else and it sounds shit. You know,
well,
so
that's why I was going to say that's why I was surprised Massalan did it. Massalan have gone AI with their radio ads. So, and the reason why they said they've done it is because they quickly churn out new offers, new lines, so they want to be able to.
I am really intrigued by that. And is that in the UK?
Yeah.
Because
but,
the in-store.
See, I think that makes sense.
I think it's a terrible idea because I think the reason why I'm not worried about it is because AI produces subpar mediocrity, and you're never going to get a real performance that connects with somebody because it is just monotone garbage. However, I also think that, like you see a lot on LinkedIn, for example, there's a lot of video editors that I follow, and they keep posting about these videos that are produced AI only, and they're just tearing it apart. And the common theme is that, like, if you take your professional hat off for a second and just be a consumer, I don't want to watch that crap. It doesn't do anything for me.
Sure.
And I think I think there'll come a point where I feel like it'll go full circle, where people will think, I'm sick of this. And when you see something real, you see something, whether it's a voice or a piece of content that is real, it will resonate so much more that I think the desire for that will come back, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, so let me give you a counter argument to that. I think the example you gave about Matalan Install, I haven't heard it, and it might well sound crap. Well, yeah, sure. Whilst you're looking, I think that's a really good use of AI, where, for example, you go and hire an actor to do a voice model, and then you get the voice model in there, so you're being paid for that. But what's important about it, and the reason it would be good, is that the guy who's sat there with his little terminal, who's boss of, Milton Keynes Matalan, can then sit there and say, on offer in aisle 3, we've got crumpets reduced down to 25p today. And they can just press go and it'll mix that in with the music that's playing. That's a really good use of AI. There's no sense in paying a voice artist to go and do that at the granularity they need to do it. Because all that's happened previously is that, Dairy Milk has said that they've got an offer for Easter. Well, that's not granular enough for a company like that in a particular shop, in a particular aisle. So that I think is where AI can actually really work, and I think that makes sense. But I think you're also right that en masse, the higher paid jobs or the jobs where we need some kind of human element, then it's just not going to work at all, and that makes complete sense. Yeah, but there's also another job, like in gaming. We're starting to do more AI models in gaming now because they're character-based AI. And that's a really good thing because you pay the voice actor to do the AI job for that particular game, and you can't then use that character AI in anything else because everyone knows that it's from The Last of Us Part 19, and it sounds like it, or from GTA 7 or whatever it is, right?
Yeah.
So, but then, and also...
So what's the benefit of you doing that then, Hugh? Sorry. So you've done the modelling of their voice for that game. What's the benefit for you then? Then you can...
Well, it benefits everyone because, let's say, for example, Grand Theft Auto that I just mentioned, right? You've got the little radio character on there, right? Now, they'll go and release GTA 6 or whatever it is, and the radio messages and stuff is all plumbed in, right? So they've got, I don't know, and now is Joe Joyce from the car wash or whatever it is that they're saying. But why shouldn't they have that voice character basically releasing all the new stuff that's coming out day to day and using that as a radio channel mid-game? That's a good example of AI. And you don't want someone sat there day after day after day after day, just creating different sentences when they can just go and type it in. What I'm saying is that there are still going to be wild and pre-recorded sentences from voice actors traditionally. But now there's a different type of job for voice actors, which is creating the character model. So they're still getting paid for it. They'll still negotiate usage for it. They're just not doing every single line. They're doing a model. So it's just an adaptation of an industry in that particular sense. And that is a positive thing, because when it comes to using that model, you can't go and use that model in War Thunder that we've just done, because it's a totally different game and it won't work. Yeah. So
I think that's kind of from some of... Sorry, I didn't mean to carry on.
No, I was just going to say, I think that that one of the key aspects of the next 10 years is going to be accepting change and moving with it and finding opportunity where there is opportunity and looking after your contracts as you go.
I think trying to... what I was going to say was I've seen a common theme across social media, like the fear of, as soon as, I'll play this Matalan ad now, but the fear of when someone decides to use AI instead of a human voice, that is having it's going to have a snowball effect, and it's going to just wipe us out. And I totally agree with your sentiment, Hugh, with what you said. That this is a sensible case use of AI. It doesn't mean across the board that's going to work for everybody. So there are going to be things where you have to just accept AI is probably going to be better for them because it's cheaper and they can get it done quicker. It just doesn't make sense to use a human voice, but there are so many other things that require a human to tell that story.
Well, look at Lizzie's voiceover of the week. That's a prime example of what just couldn't be done using AI.
Yeah, absolutely. But this is the Matalan one anyway, so I'll have to play it through the microphone.
At Matalan, the big sale is now on. Shop up to 50% off across thousands of women's, men's and kids' styles, plus homeware too. Head to your nearest store today or shop via the app and online at matalan.co.uk. T's and C's apply. Selected lines only.
So, it's not terrible. You can still tell there's some inflections in there that aren't totally natural. But on the whole, if they're saying that's the direction they're going to go in because it makes sense, then I kind of get it.
Okay, I'm going to say something slightly controversial here, which is that there are loads of really good voice artists out there who are hired regularly. And there are some voice artists who are not very good, who are hired and end up on airplay, who don't perform as well as that did, if that's an AI.
Yeah, no, that's 100% AI.
I can't really hear it because of the...
I wouldn't have known through this that was AI.
Through that little speaker you're holding up to the mic, I couldn't really hear it. But
if you go on Google and just tap in Matalan AI radio ads, there's a whole story about it, and then they've got the link there as well.
But again, what's going to happen? What's going to happen is that their customers are going to vote with their feet, and they're going to realise that actually that didn't work, and they tried it, and it didn't work, or they tried it and it works, But then you're going to go and put that next to, they're going to listen to what their customers are doing as well, and whoever it is, I can't think of an equivalent of Matalan, I don't know, B&M or someone, are going to go and do this big human campaign or whatever, and all of a sudden they're going to go, have you seen that B&M ad? That's brilliant, that is. Ours is shit. Yeah. Because that's just how the world works.
Yeah, and that's sort of, that aligns what I was saying before. I think when you hear the mediocrity and then you hear something real, the difference is going to be phenomenal. And I think people will gravitate towards that because it resonates more. But I think also, I think a lot of people who aren't working on their craft need to really step it up, because a poor human VO is not as good as the best AI that's out there. There is that slight shift where if you're new to it, you don't work on it, get your coaching in, because there are AI models coming out that are better than a newly found VO that's not working on their craft. So you've got to, I always say, there's always going to be competition. It's your job to be better than it. Simple as that.
I'm conscious of the time, and before we let these guys go, I just really want to know what's next. What are you excited about? What gets you up in the morning? What's next for you guys?
You go,
that you can say.
Can I say?
I don't know. It depends. What's at me? Tell me what you're talking about.
I've got my phone in here. What we were talking about this morning.
Oh, yeah. So, yes, we can talk about that. One of the things we have to do is we have to go and find specific hardware and tech studio solutions in specific countries. We're doing it anyway because we're recording in so many other things. So we were talking about planning a little pre-Christmas trip to nip off to the Far East there and do some studio hunting, which should be fun.
Oh, nice.
So currently that's what's getting me up in the morning.
I thought you weren't flying until January. What's this?
Well,
breaking news.
There was an exception.
Yeah, but this one is, I mean, more of a jolly, I think, really, than a proper work trip. What gets me up in the morning? Well, I mean, do we all have children on this call? Do we? Yeah, we all do. I mean, obviously our children do.
Like practically come and jump on you.
Practically do it.
Mine's 16 almost now, so I'm not the cool guy anymore. So
they still jump on you in the morning.
No, I'm left alone most of the time now, so I'm all right. But
good. I don't know. For me, it's new challenges within the sphere that we work in.
Yeah.
There's a few projects that we're working on that we are developing that I can't tell you about yet because they're not fit for market yet. But I'm really excited about those, and we've got a few gigs coming up that.
There's a lot of coy faces.
There's a
there.
lot of travelling going on next year if we get what we want, which should be a lot of fun. And the only real downside to that whole caper, from my point of view, is that sometimes childcare is a difficult thing to juggle with partners and ex-partners and whatever. It's a tricky thing. That aside, it's more of the same, please. It's been an absolute blast of a year.
Excellent.
Yeah,
That's amazing.
It has, I was going to go down another rabbit hole, just saying it has been a great year VO-wise. There's been loads of great stuff going on. But
how are you guys finding it? How are you guys finding the market?
Jen,
we talked a bit about, it was quite quiet over the summer. Like I think for a lot of VOs it was quiet over the summer. I think things have picked up. I kind of took a bit of a step away things a bit over the summer as well, so a bit quieter for me for different reasons. But it feels exciting. I mean, maybe again because we've had the Vox as well, which has kind of renewed all our spirits. But I feel really excited, and I feel really determined to fucking smash it. I'm working on my branding at the moment, and because there's a lot of us out there, and it's just kind of work out how I be really authentic and really sell my USPs and all that stuff. So I'm excited about that as well.
So for me, it's been a good year. Like I had a bit of a quiet slump in the summer, but I just did all the other stuff just to get prepared for when I come out the other side. But what I'm liking is I've been working a lot on that human performance, something emotive, and I'm finding now that I'm booking quite a bit of work that leans in that, which is great because it means I can just keep enhancing it all the time. But I feel like I've found a little bit of a niche, and I'm getting booked for that work as well. So like I've got some projects coming out. I did the rugby final, which came out 2 weeks ago, which went down so well. And then I've got some Christmas ones that are coming out in November, which I'm looking forward to like getting out there because again they're just heartwarming, they're emotive. So having that repertoire of work and building on it, it's a good feeling, because I put a lot of work in to try and do that. So I'm in a good place. It's all right.
Good.
Good for you guys. And full circle. I mean, I have heard occasionally some people saying that it's been a bumpy year, and some people saying that it's been a bit of a shallow year for them. But as we said at the beginning of this. It's somewhere between 1 million and 1,500,000 that we spent on VOs this year, and I can't see it slowing down at all. For me, and for my sort of like sphere of vision, it is just getting more and more and more and more, and the demand is bigger and bigger, and we're doing more and more casting and spending more with agents and whatever. So, for those of you who are in a bit of a temporary slump, I would keep hope because. Yeah. As from what we can see, it's still a very buoyant industry.
Yeah. Amazing. And what a positive note to leave it on.
Absolutely. Well, Gina, have you got something to add to that?
No. Just happy to be here.
Yeah. We're so happy.
Amazing.
Thank you so much, both of you.
Yeah.
It's been
that is an
really
incredibly positive thing
talking.
to end on. In a time where some people might feel a bit stressed out or bleak or whatnot, and that is an incredibly positive takeaway. Really.
Oh, you're welcome, and thank you for having us.
Yeah, thanks so much.
Thank you.
So, folks, that is it for season 2. Jen, Can we get
a picture with you guys?
Yeah, well, should we?
We'll do that afterwards.
I'm
we'll save that for afterwards.
I'll stop talking. So thanks very much, folks, for all the new people that have found us for this season. We hope you enjoyed the slightly new format. It's been great getting to know so many of you via the DMs, in person. For those that have contributed to the episodes, we sincerely hope you enjoyed it. And I guess I'll say watch this space for season 3.
Yeah. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon.
Thanks very much, folks. See you soon.
Bye.
Okay.